Individuals and businesses with tax problems, listen carefully. If you owe over $10,000 in back taxes or have unfiled tax returns, U.S. Tax Shield can help you take back control. The IRS can seize your bank accounts, garnish your paycheck, close your business, and file criminal charges. Our team of tax attorneys can stop collections and get you protected. U.S. Tax Shield offers a price protection guaranteed quote to get you protected today. U.S. Tax Shield is A+ rated with the BBB, so call 800-479-2697. U.S. Tax Shield, 800-479-2697.
Would you wait several days for your cell phone to fully charge? Would you wait several days to feel the full effect of relief from your nasal congestion? Flonase Allergy Relief Nasal Spray could take that long.
Ugh.
But if you're congested now and you want powerful relief now, use Afrin No Drip. Afrin starts working in seconds and keeps working for 12 hours. So why wait several days to feel the full effect? When you can start to get relief in seconds with Afrin. Afrin, powerful congestion relief without the wait. Use as directed.
A Boston conservative in the cradle of liberty. You'll want to listen when Chuck Morse speaks.
Thanks so much and welcome to the program. Chuck Morse Speaks, USA Radio Networks, Monday through Friday, 10 to noon Eastern Standard Time. 919-896-8198 is the number if you'd like to join us. 919-896-8198. We're joined by Carlos Smith. He is with an organization, Equity Florida Institute. Carlos, thanks for joining me this afternoon.
Thank you for having me, Chuck. I appreciate it.
My pleasure. Carlos, talk about the controversy in Florida right now with regard to child welfare advocates and the similarity, as your press release says, with what you call Indiana-style discrimination.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Well, Chuck, really what's happening in Florida is taking a step in the direction of Indiana, because what we have here is we have a bill which allows for adoption agencies under state law to tell any person for any reason, we don't serve your kind. If they find them offensive to their religious or personal convictions for any reason, and that's included but not limited to the person's race, to their gender, marital status, religion, sexual orientation, or gender identity or expression, any of those issues. And so what the real problem is here, Chuck, is that this bill is unconstitutional for so many reasons, but it also hurts children. What we have in Florida is we have a crisis in our child welfare system. We have almost 900 children, vulnerable and many of them special needs children in the state's care, who are desperately looking for a forever family. And the crisis that we have here in our state has nothing to do with the lack of agencies or adoption agencies providing these child placement services. It has everything to do instead with the lack of qualified parents who are willing to adopt a child. And so what this bill does that's harmful in the way of children is it shrinks the pool of good parents by discouraging them and humiliating them and discriminating against them, which does nothing to improve the child welfare system in Florida.
Carlos, the reason this came to my attention and the reason it resonated with me, and by the way, I tend to fall on the side of freedom here, is that many years ago when my wife and I were considering adopting a child, before we actually had a child, a fellow talk show host of mine was involved with an adoption agency that placed children in Christian households. And I don't happen to be Christian. And I asked the person about this, could they help us? And he said that, with due respect, they could not, because they only place children in Christian households. Now, I don't have a problem with that. To my way of thinking, this is a matter of choice. It's a matter of the free market offering services that they choose to offer. And that I suppose that if the charge of discrimination is going to be made, and I suppose I could technically say that they were discriminating against me, I mean, ultimately, you have conflicting interests. You've got people, on the one hand, you could say that they're discriminating against me. On the other hand, one can say that they would be discriminated against as a religious group who wanted to conduct certain types of adoption if they were forced to adopt other people that they didn't want to ever have adopted. So, I think that on this case, I mean, I would err on the side of free choice. I think that a gay couple who wants to adopt a baby can find agencies that will place a baby in their home, and they should look for that. What say you?
Well, Chuck, the real issue here is not about free choice, and it's actually not about freedom of religion, because the reality is that with Florida's Religious Freedom Restoration Act, which already has expanded protections for religious freedom for these adoption agencies, purely private organizations that are involved in helping family attorneys, for example, find a loving home based on religious criteria are still able to do that. The real issue here is that in Florida, all of these adoption agencies that are covered by this legislation and this proposal are all state-contracted, taxpayer-funded adoption agencies. And what they are doing is they are obviously doing the work of government, and they are receiving government funds. And so for the bill to be constitutional, it needs to not include agencies that are operating on the state dollar, because the no aid provision of the Florida Constitution says that you cannot use monies from the Treasury or distribute monies from the Treasury to organizations or religiously affiliated organizations that are going to use that to make placement decisions that are based on religious criteria. And the reality here is that what we don't need to be doing, Chuck, is we don't need to be discouraging good families who are looking to place a child by simply telling them, well, in this case, we don't serve your kind, but in the case that you outlined, forcing them to go from one adoption agency to the next, to the next, to the next, until they can find an agency that is willing to not treat them like second-class parents. And that's what the real issue here is, because the child placement services and the child welfare system in any state is a critical one because it serves the needs of vulnerable children. And if organizations cannot find a way to put their personal or religious convictions aside, which have nothing to do with the ability to be a good parent, then they should not be in the business of child placement services. But also at the same time, what I think we can all agree on is that they certainly should not be contracted by the state and be receiving state and in many cases federal dollars to discriminate, because the government doesn't discriminate. And as subcontractors of the government doing the work of government, they must follow those rules. You see, from the way I see it, and this bill is written so broadly that it even though everyone is very well aware that the intent of this bill was to target gay and lesbian families, the reality is that it was so hastily put together and so broadly written that it allows for adoption agencies to discriminate for any reason. Let's say that they decide that they want to deny child placement services, in your example, because they don't agree with the religion of the parents, so they don't want to serve Jews or Muslims, or they don't want to place a child with a single black woman, or they don't want to place a child maybe even with a gun-owning family. For any reason that's written, that's how the bill language kind of lays this out. And so,
Right.
I definitely,
Carlos, I would suggest, I understand that. And
I'll say one more
hello,
thing.
Carlos,
let me
and
finish real quick.
because you're
taxpayer-
no, that's okay. You're filibustering here, and this is a conversation.
Understood.
I actually, thank you. Look, I think that an organization, especially an adoption agency, ought to have a right to decide all of the things that you mentioned, whether or not you agree, and they may not agree with you with regard to what constitutes good parenting, and I think that that's up to a private organization to do that, whether I agree or not. Now, you're bringing up the issue of the fact that once they receive state taxpayer money, then they have to fall under the state law. And in Massachusetts, where I am, we had a situation a couple of years ago where Catholic Charities was told that they would have to place gay adoptions. And because that runs against the Catholic Church, they decided to simply pack their bags and they left the state. And that was the biggest and by all standards, the best adoption agency in the state. So the state was at a loss for that. But they had their religious convictions, and they felt, whether you and I agree, that it was against their religious principles to place children in a gay household. And I think that, in the name of freedom, not only ought to we err on the side of freedom with regard to the placement, and I think that there are plenty of agencies that do adopt, place children in gay households, and that's fine as well. But I think that, again, in the name of freedom, we ought to allow for companies to make those decisions. And as such, it just, even if they get taxpayer money, nevertheless, in the same way that a public school, which is funded by taxpayer money, has a certain amount of leeway with regard to en loco parentis. They get to decide the curriculum. I think that the same principle ought to apply here, but ultimately, I suppose the answer will be that these agencies will just have to withdraw from getting public funds, and they'll just have to expect to be supported by the private sector and be able to continue, because you don't seem to disagree with their right to do that as long as they don't get public funds.
Well, Chuck, you've given me a lot to respond to real quick there, so let me remind your listeners of a couple things. First, the story in Massachusetts is a story that we know very well. This Catholic or Christian-based adoption agency was not told by the state of Massachusetts that they had to place children with gay families against their religious principles. They were never forced to do that. There is no state law that requires any religious organization to perform child placement services. What happened in that case is that the organization itself discovered, after gay marriage became the law of the land in Massachusetts, that they had already engaged in almost 20 child placement services to place over 20 children under their organization with gay and lesbian parents, unbeknownst to the leadership of that organization, and it caused a rift in that organization where they decided that they no longer wanted to perform child placement services. But the reality here is that the right to religious freedom...
But once they decided that, Carlos, they were then told that they had to by the laws of the state, which is why they left.
They were there. No organization.
But I want to. We're running a little bit out of
services.
time here. So, the reason that Massachusetts, according to what I've read in the Boston Globe, and again, I'm not an insider on it, but that they decided to leave the state because they were being told by the Attorney General at the time, that being Martha Coakley, that they would have to place children in gay households. Now, I want to ask you about this comment here, Indiana-style discrimination, because I did follow that case. And
absolutely.
It's my understanding that this wasn't a matter of discrimination. The famous example of what's going on here, and it's a situation that's coming up nationally, and we could cite many, but I'm using this as an example, would be the baker in Denver, Colorado, who was sued because he refused to create a wedding cake for a gay couple. Now, I want to talk about the principle here because, again, I err on the side of freedom. All right, we got to take a break here. Carlos Smith is my guest. Carlos, we'll be right back. Please sit tight. Equity Florida Institute's the group. We'll be right back.
Thousands of Americans are losing weight and feeling better with the 10-2-Chew weight loss system from ILikeHowILook.com. Here is U.S. Army Sergeant Dave Myers.
Since I started taking the Nufina, probably, I want to say 60, 65 days ago, I have lost over 12 pounds. I have a long military career, and it has caused some issues with my knees and my ankles over the years, and I have become accustomed to just being in pain with one of those areas. I can only attribute the way I feel to the Nufina because that's the only thing that's changed in my diet, and I am absolutely pain-free in knees and ankles, and it just feels great to be able to get out and run around and move pain-free again.
The Nufina Collagen Protein Shake is part of the 10-2-Chew weight loss system from ILikeHowILook.com. Collagen feeds the joints, hair, and skin. This could help you lose weight, feel better, and look younger. Watch the video on ILikeHowILook.com and get the full story. They even offer free samples. Go to ILikeHowILook.com.
Warning, if you or a loved one are struggling with drugs and alcohol, there's something you need to know. Thoughts like, I can stop anytime, I'm not hurting anyone, it's my life, are lies. These lies cause you to drink or get high even when you've promised yourself or someone else you wouldn't. You may feel all alone, but you're not. We're here to help. Take the first step. Call us today at 800-461-3329 for a free, no-obligation assessment. Your insurance may even cover the full cost of treatment. Please don't wait. Call 800-461-3329. If nothing changes, nothing changes. Call American Drug Treatment Centers to speak with our trained staff. We'll walk you through getting yourself or a loved one into treatment even if they won't admit there's a problem. The truth is, drugs and alcohol want you dead. Don't let them win. One simple call will start you on the road to recovery. Call 800-461-3329 now. It will be the best thing you ever do. Call 800-461-3329. 800-461-3329.
Owning and caring for a home comes with a lot of to-dos. Fix the AC, build a deck, remodel the kitchen. Whatever your home improvement need, Home Advisor can help you find a pro you can trust to get the job done right. Go to rebuild.homeadvisor.com for instant access to top-rated pros in your area, including electricians, handymen, remodelers, whatever type of home pro you need. Home Advisor is absolutely free to use. At Home Advisor, you don't have to search through a long list of pros. With just a few clicks, Home Advisor matches you with pros who provide the exact services you need. You can read customer reviews of the pros, even use the cost guide to find out what hundreds of other home projects cost in your area. Because Home Advisor knows it's important to find a pro you can trust in your home, they conduct background checks on their service professionals. It's just one of the reasons more than 25 million homeowners have used Home Advisor. Go to rebuildhomeadvisor.com to find the right pro for your project. That's rebuild.homeadvisor.com.
Don't complain about your cable bill going up and up and up. Do something about it. Grab a pen and jot down this special number. Call 800-919-8536. The more cable TV rates go up, the better digital satellite TV looks. Say goodbye to the cable guy and get more of your favorite channels in 100% digital quality for much less money. Call 800-919-8536. Sign up for packages starting as low as $19.99. Best of all, there's no equipment to buy. You get free HD TV upgrade, a free DVR upgrade, and free professional installation. You control what you watch when you watch it. Record your favorite shows, pause and rewind live TV, even skip the commercials, and watch local channels too. At just $19.99, what are you waiting for? Call 800-919-8536. Say goodbye to the cable guy. Cut cost and get more. Call today. 800-919-8536. That's 800-919-8536. Again, 800-919-8536.
Chuck Morse speaks.
Okay, we're back. Carlos Smith is here, Equity Florida Institute. We're talking here about this business of Indiana-style discrimination, as you call it. I would argue that the baker in question is not discriminating against gay people. He's not discriminating against anyone. Anyone can go into that bakery and purchase a cake, the cake that he offers. then if they were discriminating against them, that would be wrong. It would be against the Civil Rights Act of 1964. But what's going on here is that the person coming into the baker is telling the baker how they are to make the cake. They're telling them, you have to create it this way and that way. It's a direct interference, and they're telling them if they don't create it the way they want it created, then they're going to be fined. And if a company can be fined, ultimately the person could be incarcerated. Now, I think that this is the equivalent of, let's say, the baker is Jewish, and you have someone come in who wants to have a Nazi wedding cake. They're having a Nazi wedding. They say, we want you to create a cake in the shape of Hitler's mustache, or something like that. Or if the baker was black and you have a Klan couple come in, we want to have a cake baked like a burning cross. The baker should be able to say, you could come in here and buy any cake you want, but I am not going to bake that cake that way because it runs against my conscience. You could go to another baker to get the cake, but that's not what I do. And that's how I see this issue. They're not being discriminated against.
Chuck, I've got to jump in here
Go
if
ahead.
you'll let me, and I got to let you know that I only have a couple more minutes.
By all means.
But
Yep.
I got to
Go
let
ahead.
you know that you're conflating loving gay and lesbian couples with Nazis and with burning crosses. It's totally unacceptable.
No, I'm not.
It's fair.
That is not what I'm doing at all. I'm using the example of the right of the baker. Wait a minute. No, I reject that. I'm not getting into the individuals. I'm making a point.
If you let me, I know that I'm a guest on your show.
Yeah, but wait, I'm not going to stand for that charge. That's a smear against me. And I, as a Jew who's a family member survived in the Holocaust, am not going to sit here and be charged with that kind of thing. Now look, the point that I'm trying to make here is that the person the baker, in this case, has a right to offer a product equally to anybody that goes in. What's being expected here is that the person going into the bakery is demanding by law that the baker bake a cake their way. It's like somebody going into an art gallery and demanding that the artist paint a portrait the way they want it painted.
Chuck, the right to religious freedom is not the right to discriminate and harm others. And in the case in Florida, which is the issue that I came on here to discuss with adoption agencies, the right to religious freedom is not the right to place children in the crossfire and to make decisions based on personal religious criteria that have nothing to do with the welfare of a child. That's the reality of what we're facing here in Florida. The courts have already consistently held that when private agencies are hired by the government to provide social services, as in the case here in Florida with adoption services, which is the issue at hand, it is unconstitutional for them to limit those services, for the agencies to limit their services based on their own religious beliefs or use tax dollars to engage in religious activity. That's what this is. We respect and encourage, of course, the freedom of religion. But the Constitution in Florida and the United States Constitution clearly states that you cannot use state dollars and monies from the Treasury to promote any particular religion or to advance any particular religion, and that is the issue that's at hand here. And to your point about the cake makers or whoever else is at hand in some of these other states, the reason we have mentioned and have correctly framed this bill in Florida as Indiana style is that it applies the same concept. As long as you have a religious or personal objection to the person or couple that is coming in for services, you can deny them for any reason. You can place a sign outside, even though this bill doesn't require it, that says blacks, Jewish persons, Muslims, and gays need not apply.
No, that's not true.
Even if
that's not true.
Well, it's true in this bill. If you haven't read the bill,
it's not true with regard to Indiana, and it's not true in the Freedom of Religion Act. You cannot tell somebody you can't come in and buy a cake because we don't like you because you're gay or any other reason.
Well,
what it says is that it's not what it says.
Exactly what the Indiana bill says. It is exactly
you're
what
wrong.
this bill here
You're
in Florida
absolutely
says.
wrong.
Well, I've read the bill. I'm an expert on the bill.
It says that
by the way,
it does not say that, and if it does, then I agree with you. That's wrong. What it says is that the person who is baking the cake. Yeah, I reject
Dr.
that.
Sponberg
Anyway,
still
listen,
has
Carlos
admitted
Smith,
advantage
thank
to
you for
that.
joining me. Equality Florida Institute. We'll be back after these messages.
Did you know by age 50, half of all men have an enlarged prostate? This means more urges to urinate, longer bathroom trips, waking at night to urinate, or issues with sex. If this sounds familiar, call us now, because we're shipping free bottles of Super Beta Prostate to listeners of this station. Super Beta Prostate is a non-prescription formula guaranteed to reduce the symptoms of your enlarged prostate. It's yours free. Pay only shipping and handling. Just call 1-800-391-6916. In clinical trials, the ingredient in Super Beta Prostate was shown to reduce urges to urinate, improve bladder emptying, reduce waking at night to urinate, and improve quality of life. This Super Beta Prostate free offer is for listeners of this station, but it won't last. Don't wait. Just call 1-800-391-6916. That's 1-800-391-6916. Call 1-800-391-6916.
Hi, I'm Joan London. When I needed to find senior care for my mom, I really struggled to find the right fit until I found an advisor, someone who had been through this before. That's why I recommend A Place for Mom, the nation's largest senior living referral service. They have experts who will help you ask the right questions and find the right place. Call A Place for Mom today.
To speak with the local senior living advisor, call A Place for Mom at 1-800-469-7591. That's 1-800-469-7591.
A Place for Mom has helped over 200,000 families find the right senior care for their parents, from assisted living to independent living, even Alzheimer's care, and have local advisors that can help explain your options at no cost to you.
To speak with the local senior living advisor, call A Place for Mom at 1-800-469-7591. That's 1-800-469-7591.
Call today.
Chuck Morse speaks.
Thanks so much. And again, I want to thank Carlos Smith for joining me, Equality Florida. I guess that I really, if I'm going to be in this business, I need to get, I can't, it's interesting to say this, but it's hard to do it. But I need to get maybe thicker skin or something when you have sort of a paid media flack on either side, on any side. Come on and use all of the usual stuff you hear in the mainstream media. Oh, you said this. That must mean that you're comparing me to Nazis, or you're like it gets under my skin real quick. And, on the one hand, I'm saying to myself, maybe I should use a less bombastic example to make a point. Maybe I could say that, what if you're a Democrat a Democrat going into a baker who's Republican, and you're going to have a Democrat wedding, and you want them to make a cake in the shape of Hillary Clinton's face. I don't know. Or conversely, if you're a Republican and you go into a Democrat baker and you want them to make a cake in the shape of George W. Bush, whatever. Should that person be forced to make that cake? That's the point I'm trying to make. I bring up unpopular groups, not necessarily to be bombastic, but to sort of drive home the point here, which is that if we're going to err on the side of freedom, then, we're going to allow the creator of a product or a service to decide how they're going to create their product or service. Now, again, they are not discriminating against the gay person or the person who wants a gay wedding cake, whether they're gay or not, it's their business. They're saying, come on in, buy a cake, but it's really the person coming in that's trying to force the baker to create something the way they want it created. And it's no different than forcing, like going into an art gallery and forcing an artist to paint a portrait the way you want it painted. I think that what it comes down to is that that's what this is all about. This is an attempt by the government to force businesses, small businesses in particular, to create products and services that they want them to create, whatever they may be, at a given time. And if they don't create that product or service, then they could be fined. And if you can fine someone and they refuse to pay the fine, ultimately that is giving them the power to incarcerate them. And I see it as analogous to the trend of the past many years under the Obama administration. For the first time, individuals are forced by law to purchase a product, namely health insurance. Now, whether or not we agree that it's a good idea for everyone to have health insurance, and I think that we generally agree that it is, the principle here is that the government now can force you to buy it and fine you if you don't buy it. And if you ultimately don't pay that fine, technically, they could incarcerate you. And so this is just another example, in my opinion, of the government now telling a business, you have to create a product that we want you to create. And that's unprecedented. That has not happened before. You know, businesses certainly, the baker is subject to health regulations, and that's good. I'm not against regulations. Those are the same health regulations that all bakers are subject to and should be. But there's a little difference between that and having a government come in and say, you are ordered to create this product because we tell you you have to. And if you don't create it, you're going to be fined. That's what this is about. It has nothing to do with discrimination. Again, that couple, whether they're gay or whatever, can go into the baker and buy a cake. They have to, they can buy the same cake everyone else buys. It's them telling the baker how to make the cake. That's the issue that I take objection to. We'll be right back.
A Truth Talk defender, Chuck Morse, is someone you really do want to know. Chuck hosts the radio talk show Chuck Morse Speaks, which is nationally syndicated. He's the author of books and numerous columns that have been published broadly. Chuck received the 2003 Communicator of the Year Award and was named a Heavy 100 radio talk host by Talkers Magazine. When Chuck Morse speaks, people listen.
For taking possession of this tiny holy land so that the Jew can serve God, not conquer the world.
To hear Chuck live, go to usaradio.com. To hear Chuck with Deborah Ray on Truth Talk Beyond the Soundbite, visit the on-demand page at deborahray.us.
Most of us have pondered about the one universal question. Is there a God? And if there is there any absolute proof? It is for that exact reason why my good friend Sam Sorbo and I, Maurice Forte, have written our book, The Answer, Proof of God in Heaven. In essence, the answers in our book are surprisingly simple as they're true. Just as light will eliminate darkness, so does the law, which in Greek is called cosmos, eliminate the possibility of chance. Therefore, chance had no part in the creation of the law of this cosmos. And so the only other possibility is that the law was created by a creator that we call God. The Answer, Proof of God in Heaven, is probably one of the most powerful books that truly proves the existence of God via His universal laws, and with it that of an eternal soul and everlasting life. Please find our book, The Answer, Proof of God in Heaven, now on Amazon.com or at our website, theanswer-book.com.
Bad credit card debt happens to good people. Credit card companies lure you in with low introductory rates or low minimum payments, and before you know it, you owe thousands of dollars in credit card debt. It has happened to millions of good people just like you. But here's the good news. Thanks to a powerful program now approved, anyone with $2,000 or more in credit card debt can cut their credit card payments up to half, and even reduce or eliminate interest charges altogether. That's right. Our nationwide nonprofit program is helping U.S. residents cut their credit card payments. Call 800 800-991-6376 now. The call and information are free. Credit Guard has helped over 500,000 people with their credit card debt, and now we can help you. Call 800-991-6376 to see how this powerful nonprofit program can work for you. Bad credit card debt happens to good people. Get free of credit card debt today. Call 800-991-6376. That's 800-991-6376. Again, 800-991-6376.
Taking back America one listener at a time. Chuck Morse speaks.
Thanks so much, and we are back. I've got Evan Chiat coming up in hour number 2 here, and he's launching a national speaking tour where he is discussing his book, The Kindergarten of Eden, which is about it's about liberals. He says why the modern liberals thinking leads him to side with evil over good, wrong over right, the behaviors that lead to failure over those that lead to success. I haven't read it, to be honest. It just came across my desk yesterday. But he's a good spokesperson. He's an interesting. He gave a speech at the Heritage Foundation, which really went viral apparently on YouTube. He got 600,000 visits, and I think that he's a former writer for Bill Maher, and he's worked with the big talk shows, I guess, over time. So he's a former comedian. We could use a few laughs right now. Anyway, with regard to the issue of the so-called Indiana-style discrimination, I just think this is I think that the gay movement here is unwitting. I think that they're well-meaning, but I think that they are, and maybe they're being used. But the bottom line is that this is really an attempt by, I would argue, government to come in and open the door to regulating what businesses and individuals, creators, can and cannot create. It's not a matter of discrimination. Anyone could go into the baker. Why should the baker be forced to create a product because somebody else wants it created? For whatever reason, it's not even a religious issue, in my opinion, and I don't think it should be phrased as a religious issue. It should be phrased as a freedom issue. If I have a conscientious objection to what someone is asking me to do, I ought to reserve the right to say, no, thank you, I'm not going to do this. Now, if my conscientious objection is based upon, that I don't like someone because they're black, that's wrong and it's illegal. Should be. The Civil Rights Act of 1964 forbids that. That, being a race is something you're born with. But if I object to someone's point of view or political agenda, I ought to have a right to do that, I would think. Certainly have free.
Most of us have pondered about the one universal question. Is there a God? And if there is there any absolute proof? It is for that exact reason why my good friend Sam Sorbo and I, Maurice Forte, have written our book, The Answer, Proof of God in Heaven. In essence, the answers in our book are surprisingly simple as they're true. Just as light will eliminate darkness, so does the law, which in Greek is called cosmos, eliminate the possibility of chance. Therefore, chance had no part in the creation of the law of this cosmos. And so the only other possibility is that the law was created by a creator that we call God. The Answer, Proof of God in Heaven, is probably one of the most powerful books that truly proves the existence of God via His universal laws, and with it that of an eternal soul and everlasting life. Please find our book, The Answer, Proof of God in Heaven, now on Amazon.com or at our website, theanswer-book.com.
Chuck Morse speaks.
Thanks so much, and we've got Evan Sayet coming up, but I'm still here opining on the interview I just conducted with Carlos Smith. He's a spokesman for Equality Florida Institute. he's a very well-accomplished media guy. He knows how to press the right buttons. And, I'm, on the other hand, not a media-trained political flack, so to speak. And, again, I'm not criticizing him for that because you get them on all sides, and I've had it with that, interviewed them. Who knows how to, make arguments in a way that can win and, use various angles. I'm more of an author, a commentator, and I try to do a more thoughtful type discussion that looks underneath the the set. I mean, I'm not using this term derogatorily, but the propaganda, if you will, and tries to debate ideas. So, when he comes in and says, "Oh, I'm conflating gay people with Nazis and and the Ku Klux Klan," that's a media artifice. I mean, that's a way to. What he's really saying is that he's found that I've said something against gay people, that I don't like gay men and women. He's trying to prove that, and he now is holding up this evidence so that the listener is going to say, Chuck doesn't like gay men and women. Now, look, I ran for public office many years ago, and that's a big piece of the game when you run for public office. You try to prove that your opponent has something against this group or that group, and your opponent tries to prove that you have something against this group or that group. And the result is that you have to engage in a type of communication that is very proscribed and that you don't say anything directly because you don't want to be accused of this. Nobody does. Well, I'm not running for office anymore. That was a long time ago. And so I don't have to be held up to those standards. And therefore, I don't have to take those sorts of accusations. It's not just unique to a group like Equality Florida. It's the same thing I would get from a pro-life group, frankly, who is going to say, oh, well, I'm this, that, and the other thing if I don't agree with their agenda. Suddenly I don't like someone. I'm against someone. I have some sort of I view them as bad, And that's what made me fly off the handle there. I don't want to be accused of that. I think it's destructive. It's saying that, it's going to my reputation. It goes to who I am. And, I'm not going to sit for that. That's, if he wants to tell me that I have something against gay men and women, let him come out and say it directly instead of this, well, I'm equating gay people with Nazis. That must imply that I have something against gay men and women. If he wants to make that accusation, come on down, make the accusation in clear and unequivocal terms, and then be willing to discuss it. And I will be able to go over what I do believe without this sort of prepared jargonistic rhetoric, this sophistic language where people slip in these charges. That's what made me fly off the handle. If I'm going to be accused of something, even in any way, I want that accusation to be made openly and clearly so that it can then be discussed. Maybe at the end of the day, after a vigorous discussion about it, maybe it could be proven that I have something against gay men and women. I don't believe I do. In fact, I completely reject it. But at least there would be an honest discussion without this sort of, stab in the back kind of thing, this attempt to discredit a person by implication. That's what made me fly off the handle on that. Not the accusation itself, even though I reject it completely. But that's how the game is played. When you're dealing with political organizations who hire professional media people, this is what they do. They craft these kinds of messages. They communicate in this particular style. And it's one that is meant not to have a reasonable discussion on an issue, but to try to discredit their opposition so that nobody's going to listen to them. That's the politics that I reject. But that's the politics, and I would suggest that it is much more common on the left than on the right, by the way. All right, we'll be right back.
Have you ever had a piece of chocolate cake call you into the kitchen? Has the Dairy Queen sign ever forced your car into the drive-thru lane? Have you ever had a bag of chips dive off the counter right into your hands? Hi, how in the world are you anyway? I'm Andy Willoughby, speaking for the ILikeHowILook.com website. Chances are, at some time in your day, you have been and will continue to be the victim of cravings. ILikeHowILook.com website realizes that you can't hide in your closet all day just to avoid snack attacks. That's why they recommend the 10-2-in-a-chew weight loss system. 10-2-in-a-chew offers powerful, natural appetite suppressants to put cravings on the run. To see a video explaining how it works, just go to ILikeHowILook.com. They will send you a free sample. Most people notice a difference the very first day. It's much easier to lose weight without those sneaky cravings, so watch the video at ILikeHowILook.com. That's ILikeHowILook.com.
Chuck Morse speaks.
Thanks so much. So we've got Evan Sayed, coming up in the second hour. His book is called The Kindergarten of Eden, and he's in the process of launching a national speaking tour. So we shall hear about his comings and goings. He's had again, he gave a talk at the Heritage Foundation that went viral apparently, and he's got a couple of clips up here. America, either exceptionally good or exceptionally evil, number one. And number two, how liberals reach the tops of their professions. That one I'm interested in. Anyway, so we'll be back with Evan Sayed coming up in hour number two. And, of course, you're welcome to check out my books. They're available at Amazon or Amazon Kindle. Just put my name in the server, Chuck Morse, M-O-R-S-E, like Morse code, and up they come. I've got about 15 books up there, all of various topics that are across the board. Also, Chuck Morse Speaks, the TV show, is now available at Chuck Morse Speaks, the blog site, and at YouTube. You can check that out. YouTube won't let me post the entire program yet because you have to be a member of YouTube for a while and build up some traffic before they let you do that. So, therefore, I've had to cut it into 4 pieces. Sorry about that, but you can watch that program I had on Dr. Kishore, who talks about his clinic that helped, according to statistics, reduce and end drug addiction, particularly heroin addiction, in Massachusetts. Then he was shut down by Attorney General Coakley, who came in and shut down 55 clinics, putting everyone back out on the street with accusations that he had engaged in some sort of a Medicaid fraud, very flimsy accusations. And he says it was entirely politically motivated. He was actually helping people get off drugs. My feeling is that even if there's some truth to it, why shut down the clinics? Why throw people back on the street if they're getting help? If they're actually getting off of their addictions? Why do that? Even the state admitted that was what was going on. All right, so we shall be back in hour number 2. You'll listen to the USA Radio Networks. Stay tuned for news.
If you get up to use the bathroom multiple times a night, if you've ever had to rush to get to a bathroom or worried that a hard laugh or cough could cause an embarrassing accident, if bladder control issues are a real concern for you or your aging parents, please listen to this important message. Healthy Control is an all-natural bladder control formula with ingredients proven to relieve urgency, reduce frequency of urination, reduce embarrassing bladder leakage, and the number of nighttime trips to the bathroom. Now we're giving away a free 30-day supply to callers from this area. Call 800-918-4177 now for details. With Healthy Control, you'll feel more confident and comfortable, and finally get a full night's sleep again. Take charge of when and how often you go to the bathroom. Call now for details on how to receive your free 30-day supply of Healthy Control at 800-918-4177. Hurry, this free offer will not last long. Call 800-918-4177 to find out how to get your free 30-day supply of Healthy Control. That's 800-918-4177. Again, 800-918-4177.
You make the decision to buy the home, then you're faced with what's next. What do we do?
We started at Realtor.com.
Realtor.com gave us a lot more current information.
Listings are pulled directly from the MLS every 15 minutes.
Once you've gone through all of that, the realtor makes it happen.
We worked with the realtor that really knew the area.
And he knew the market.
When you have someone who has the expertise, it makes it so much easier.
Realtor.com and Realtors. Together, we make home happen. Realtors are members of the National Association of Realtors.
Individuals and businesses with tax problems, listen carefully. If you owe over $10,000 in back taxes or have unfiled tax returns, U.S. Tax Shield can help you take back control. The IRS can seize your bank accounts, garnish your paycheck, close your business, and file criminal charges. Our team of tax attorneys can stop collections and get you protected. U.S. Tax Shield offers a price protection guaranteed quote to get you protected today. U.S. Tax Shield is A+ rated with the BBB, so call 800-479-2697. U.S. Tax Shield, 800-479-2697.
A Boston conservative in the cradle of liberty. You'll want to listen when Chuck Morse speaks.
Thanks so much. Hour number 2 of Chuck Morse Speaks here at the USA Radio Network. You're welcome to join the program, 919-896-8198, 919-896-8198. And, of course, we are here every weekday afternoon from 10 till noon Eastern Standard Time. My guest this segment is Evan Sayet. Evan is a writer and political commentator. He says here, after his liberal friend's response to 9/11, and I'd love to know what that is, he went on a quest to figure out what he calls the modern liberal mindset. His popular talk to the Heritage Foundation on how the modern liberal thinks has received over 600,000 views on YouTube. It's gone viral and is the basis of his new book, The Kindergarten of Eden, How the Modern Liberal Thinks and Why He's Convinced That Ignorance is Bliss. Evan, thanks for joining me this afternoon.
Big favor.
Evan, thanks for joining me.
My pleasure. It's actually morning where I am. I'm in Los Angeles, amongst the liberals. So, yeah.
Well, I'm here in Boston, so we're on the two coasts, right?
And
we're over flyover country,
right? But we're both in liberal bastions.
What is the liberal mindset, Evan, in a nutshell?
Well, it's the idea that, and by the way, let's be clear. It's not lowercase l liberal. I believe that's what we are as conservatives. What it is we seek to conserve is a liberal democracy. It's this new mindset post-World War II that I call modern liberals. And what happened really is, starting in the 1980s, which by no coincidence is when the children of the 60s, the first babies born after World War II, became the children of the 60s. Then they became the professors of the 80s, and they became the journalists of the 80s. They became the politicians of the 80s. In the 1980s, thinking was outlawed. The concept behind this is that thinking is an act of bigotry. Anything that you think, Chuck, anything that I think, anything that your audience members think, anything anybody thinks is going to be so tainted by our personal prejudices. All right, prejudices we all have based on things like the color of our skin, the nation of our ancestry, our height, our weight, our sex, whatever. Anything we believe is so tainted by our personal prejudices that the only way not to be a bigot is to never think at all. Thinking was outlawed. Anything that if you look at the Muslim world and you conclude that there's something wrong with Islam, that could just be because you're a white American Christian, and therefore you're not allowed to recognize the obvious. So the first rule, the first law of the unified field theory of liberalism is that the modern liberal was raised to believe that indiscriminateness is a moral imperative because its opposite is discrimination.
Well, I mean, I suppose it goes to the principle, the Marxist principle of equality, that the ultimate virtue is that every single individual becomes absolutely de facto the same. And in order to accomplish this utopian idea, which would create a one-world ant colony, you have to remove things that make us unequal, things like individual identity ultimately, but family, faith, capital, private ownership, property, the right to trade goods and services, anything that, yeah.
All of the above, Chuck, and if you go to what is the de facto anthem of modern liberalism, John Lennon's Imagine, there's the blueprint for utopia right there. Imagine no right. Religious identity. Imagine no national identity. Imagine no possessions. Imagine a world in which there is no difference between anybody and anything. That's the ultimate goal. But short of that is to deny the recognition of the better. So there are no better nations. America, President Obama was asked point blank, do you believe in American exceptionalism? And he gave a very clever, very politic answer in which he said yes, but then went on to make very clear that he meant no. What he said was, yes, I believe in American exceptionalism, just as I'm sure the Greeks believe in Greek exceptionalism and the Brits believe in British exceptionalism. In other words, America isn't exceptional except for the fact that he happens to live here. He's rooting for the home team, just like you might say the Chicago Cubs, or dare I say the Boston Red Sox are an exceptional team because you love them, because you like them, because you live in Boston or in Chicago. But if you look at who's actually on the pitching staff, or conversely in the analogy, if you look at the Constitution, is America exceptional? Are these teams exceptional? Well, the answer is, it depends on what the truth is, what the facts are. But here's the key, Chuck. The first rule is that they're not allowed to recognize anything, any culture, any person, any nation, any behavior, any religion as better than any other. But if America isn't exceptional, then how are you to explain our exceptional success? How are you to explain our exceptional prosperity, our exceptional strength? If we're not exceptional, then our success is unjust. Why should we be so successful? And given that we are the most successful nation in the history of the world, we must be the greatest injustice in the history of the world. So the first rule is that indiscriminateness is a moral imperative. But the second law is that indiscriminateness of thought doesn't lead to indiscriminateness of beliefs. It leads to seeing good, right, and successful as evil and failed. Anything that is successful, if you have a successful business and you didn't build it, then one, why should you have the right to any of your profits? And two, why did they build one for you but not for me?
Well, Evan, I think that the left applies the principle of Marx's exploitation conspiracy theory, in that they do believe that we are. Wait a minute, they do believe that we're exceptional because we somehow took something away from someone else. That we created these things through first through our use of slavery, and then through our alleged use of international colonialism. And Barack Obama. I mean, I think that Dinesh D'Souza gets into this interestingly in his book America, where he shows that Obama's father and the people around him, they were anti-colonialists. They were anti-British colonialists, and they believed that the colonial powers, and I think they lumped the United States in there, even though we weren't, we were successful because we took something away from people who were less successful. And the best way to create equality would be to, quote, level the playing field. That's why Barack Obama wants to give a nuclear bomb to Iran, because Iran is part of this third world idea, and that to give them nuclear power puts them on an equality basis with the United States, and he completely misses the point with regard to American exceptionalism. We're not exceptional because we're better than anyone else. Because it's not a chauvinistic idea. It's because for various reasons, historic and otherwise, we embraced certain principles that are universal, that made us better because of our actions, because of our beliefs, and that those beliefs are available to any people.
Two points here, Chuck. First, don't attempt to explain away Barack Obama in my book. I don't attempt in my book or in my speeches to explain the Marxists, those who do hold the ideology that Barack Obama holds. What I attempt to explain away, and do so in a way that was so satisfying to so many, that the lecture to the Heritage Foundation that you referenced in the intro, it is now the single most viewed lecture in the Heritage Foundation's entire history. And what I'm trying to explain more is my cousin, my neighbor, my colleague,